Grimes Graves or Grimes Graves is a large Neolithic flint mining complex in Norfolk, England, though Brandon, Suffolk is the nearest town. It was worked between c. 3000 and c. 1900 BC, although production may have continued well into the Bronze and Iron Ages owing to the low cost of flint compared with metals. Flint was much in demand for making polished stone axes in the Neolithic period. Much later, when flint had been replaced by metal tools, flint nodules were in demand for other uses, such as for building and as strikers for muskets. The scheduled monument extends over an area of some 37 hectares and consists of at least 433 shafts dug into the natural chalk to reach seams of flint. The largest shafts are more than 14 meters deep and 12 meters in diameter at the surface. It has been calculated that more than 2,000 tons of chalk had to be removed from the larger shafts, taking 20 men around 5 months. Before stone of sufficient quality was reached, an upper, top stone, and middle, wall stone, seam of flint was dug through on the way to the deeper third, floor stone, seam which most interested the miners. The site is managed by English Heritage and can be visited. Mining method. In order to remove the chalk efficiently, the ancient miners built wooden platforms and ladders as they dug downwards and piled the spoil around the shaft opening using turf revetments to hold it in place for the season. When the shaft and all its galleries were thoroughly and fastidiously backfilled to promote stability, the landscape around Grimes Graves has a characteristic pockmarked appearance caused by the infilled shafts. This is probably what inspired the later Anglo-Saxon inhabitants of the area to name it after their god Grime, although the pagan Anglo-Saxons seem to have had some idea of what the site was. As the name of the site means literally, the masked one's quarries, it wasn't until Canon William Greenwell excavated one of the shafts from 1868-1870 that their purpose was discovered in modern times. Other similar sites have been found in chalk or downland areas, such as at Sisbury and Spines in Belgium. Tools. The miners used picks fashioned from the antler of red deer. They probably used wooden shovels, although this is only inferred by analogy with other flint mines with better conditions for the preservation of artifacts. Analysis of the antlers has shown that the miners were mainly right-handed and favored the left antlers out of those that were naturally shed seasonally by the deer. The 28 pits excavated up to 2008 yielded an average of 142.5 antler picks each, of which an average of 14.8 have been found to be left-handed. Once they had reached the floor stone flint, the miners dug lateral galleries outwards from the bottom, following the flint seam. The medium-depth shafts yielded as much as 60 tons of flint nodules, which were brought to the surface and roughly worked into shape on site. The blank tools were then possibly traded elsewhere for final polishing. It is estimated that 60 tons of flint could have produced as many as 10,000 of the polished stone axes, which were the mine's main product. However, there are large areas of the site covered by later activity which are believed to conceal many more mine shafts. There were other hard stones used for axe manufacture, those of the Langdale axe industry in Penmaenmawr in North Wales being traded across Europe, as well as other less well-known igneous and metamorphic rocks. The axes were much in demand for forest clearance and settlement, development of farmland for arable crops and raising animals, which characterizes the Neolithic period. Customs and beliefs. One unproductive shaft appears to have been turned into a shrine. An altar of flint lumps had been built with a chalk bowl at its base and antler picks piled around. In front of the altar had been placed a Venus figurine of chalk, a chalk phallus and symbols, also of chalk. It may have been an attempt to ensure that the mine remained productive or fertile after this particular shaft turned out to have little flint in it. However, it is possible that the Venus figurine and the phallus are modern fakes. There is a lack of primary evidence surrounding their recovery in 1939, and rumors circulated at the time of the excavation that they were planted in order to deceive Leslie Armstrong, the archaeologist overseeing the dig. Neolithic infrastructure. Such a large industry may have required supporting infrastructure. Assuming no more than 2 shafts were open at any one time, around 120 red deer may have needed to be bred and managed nearby, in order to provide a steady supply of antler as well as skin, food and other products that the miners would require. Alternatively, the mines may have been worked intermittently by local farmers, as happened in many early metal mines during the Bronze Age and the later Iron Age. Earlier flint mines in Britain such as Sisbury and Sussex were just as important as Grime's graves, and there were many very local sources of flint which were exploited on the downlands. However, it is probably relevant that Grime's graves were close to the very rich soils of the fen, and forest clearance here would rely on local products. There was also extensive farming settlement during the Bronze Age, known from middens that fill the mouths of many Neolithic mineshafts. Animal bones from these middens show that the Bronze Age people kept cattle, which they milked, sheep and a few pigs. They also grew barley, wheat and peas. The site today, Grime's Graves, is in the care of English Heritage. It is open to the public and it is possible to descend a 9-meter ladder and explore one of the shafts. There is a small exhibition area. This is the only shaft of its kind open to the public in Britain. Publications. The full English Heritage reports on the excavations at Grime's Graves in 1971-72 are now available online through the Archaeology Data Service. Volume 1 can be found here and Volume 2 here. Images. The visitor's hut and picnic tables. The entrance to Pit I, the only flint mine open to the public. One of the many pits at Grime's Graves. The first of 2 Second World War foxholes at Grime's Graves, located between the car park and visitors center. The second of 2 Second World War foxholes at Grime's Graves, located on the eastern side of the site. The exhibit in the visitors center. Multimedia exhibit at the visitors center.